Hey everybody, welcome back to A Better Computer. My name is Matt, and today we're taking a look at what I have to say has got to be the number one most nerdy app we've ever looked at on this channel. Let's just take a look at it. I'm going to show you a demo first. I'll show you my configuration for it, and then we'll kind of go from there. But basically, if I open up my web browser, which is Helium at the moment, I'll make another video in the future about why that is. It opens in full screen. Let's open AeroSpace just kind of on GitHub. So it's totally free to install. You can install it with Homebrew or there's a bunch of install methods here. So you can figure it out. But yeah, we've just got a browser open in full screen. Nothing crazy is happening yet. But let's go ahead and show what AeroSpace is doing because it is actually already open. So if I open up Raycast to launch Reader, Reader is going to open, and it takes up the right half of the screen and actually shrunk down my browser to half screen. So what's going on there? This is what AeroSpace does, is basically it is going to tile your windows. There's an accordion view too we're not going to look at, but you can tile your windows, and it's going to have those windows take up the entire display. So if you have one app open, it's going to take up, so we'll hide Reader, it's going to take up the full display. If you bring up another app, it's going to do half the display. If you bring up a third app, a third, and we can actually get this kind of out of control pretty quick. And now this is, oh god, this is completely unusable, but we'll get back to how you can actually kind of still have this work. So let's go back to something more realistic. You've got two apps side by side. If I want to resize these, right, if I think the browser's a little small, I can go ahead and just resize it, and the other app will resize next to it. That's fine. I can also make it like that. You can also do this with keyboard shortcuts, so Option plus and minus will actually go ahead and shrink or increase the size of your current window. You can also move them around. So maybe I launched Reader second, but I still want it on the left, right? You can go ahead and do that. Just drag a window, and they will automatically rearrange. No problem there. Pretty intuitive, works how you would kind of expect this sort of thing to work. So that's pretty nice. You can also do this with keyboard shortcuts. And if you are familiar with Vim shortcuts for kind of navigation, that's HJKL. So that would be H is left, J is up, K is down, I think, and then L is right. I might have J and K mixed up, but you kind of get the idea. And basically, what you can do is if I want to move these here, I can hit Option Shift H to move Reader to the left, right? So if I hit that, it moves it to the left. If I do the same thing, Option Shift L, that's going to move it to the right. This will make sense. You certainly don't have to do this, but you can. But that's kind of the basic thing, is it's going to go ahead and do that for you. If we close Reader, my browser takes up the full window. If I launch Reader again, it kind of goes back to this layout. And again, I can kind of drag things around to however I want. So that's the basic functionality. It's going to tile your windows automatically for you, resize them so that they take up the full screen, and you kind of are getting the maximum use of your display. Now, we opened up like 5 apps earlier and it got messy. So let's go ahead. Let's say I want to start coding and I want to open Xcode. We're going to open Quick Notes. And now, well, I'm in a real pickle because I don't want to close my browser. I don't want to close Reader, but I've got Xcode here and it's too small to do any real work in. This is not ideal. So what do? I can move it to a different workspace. And so what I'm going to do here, I'll show you what it's doing in a second. I'm going to hit Option Shift 2, and now Xcode is gone. But it's not gone. So you can see up here in the menu bar, actually, we actually have AeroSpace's menu bar icon, which is showing me that I have different workspaces. So I have 9 available to me that I've set up. You can actually set up a ton, but I only have 9 available to me, and I have a few apps in Workspace 1, right? I've got Aqua Voice, which is always kind of running in the background, Helium, my browser, Reader, and then Screen Recording, which is what I'm using to record this. Or Screen Studio, I should say. And then Xcode is now in Workspace 2. So I can go to this menu bar to go to Workspace 2, but I can also use a keyboard shortcut. The entire point of AeroSpace is to do a lot of this through the keyboard. So if I hit Option 2, now I'm in Workspace 2, and hey, we have Xcode in full screen, right? And I can go back to Workspace 1 with Option 1 and switch back and forth between the two, hitting 1 and 2. You can also, kind of similar to Command tab through the normal picker, you can actually do Option tab, and that's going to switch between the last two workspaces you've been using. So I only have two, so it's going from 1 to 2 to 1 to 2. So Xcode is not what I always have open here, so let me also open GitHub. So I've got GitHub Desktop, and Ghosty is also going to be open. So these are the three things I have open. And now we're in a bit of a pickle as well, because this isn't ideal. And you can also see some windows have kind of minimum widths that don't make them tile perfectly, which is a little annoying, but it is what it is. But what I'd really like to do is have kind of Xcode here on the left in like half the screen, and I'd like to split these two vertically. This is where I'm not going to do a full demo of everything that's possible, but here's what you can do. So I can go into service mode, which is Option Shift semicolon. You can see an S appeared here in the menu bar to indicate I'm in that mode. And now I can change things. And so the one change I'm going to do today that I'm going to show you is I'm going to move this window, the currently selected window for Ghosty, I'm going to move that over into a group with this GitHub app, and these should tile vertically. So kind of to move it over to the left, right? So I want it to join with the thing to the left. Option Shift H, because again, H is left. Now I have GitHub on top, Ghosty on the bottom, and then Xcode taking up half the screen. Now maybe I want Xcode to take up more of the screen because I want to see the code a little better. And so I can do that. I can just drag this, and that's going to automatically resize everything for me, right? I can get it exactly where I want it. Let's clear the terminal because it gets a little weird when you resize it like that. I can also actually do this with keyboard shortcuts. So if I go to the one that I have selected here, I can actually hit Option plus and minus. So if I hit plus, it's going to get taller. I can make it shorter. And then this one is more horizontally set. Again, I don't have time to go into all the details here. There is actually, if I go back to Workspace 1, on the AeroSpace GitHub page, this guide from Josean Martinez is quite good. I don't think he kind of jumps into assuming you know what I3 like tiling is. I had no idea what it was, so I didn't understand the concept. So that's why I'm kind of making this video to try to help with that. But he goes into some of the config stuff. But yeah, let's go back to the coding workspace I have in Workspace 2. But yeah, you can kind of use those keyboard shortcuts to resize things to get them exactly how you want. And of course, if you prefer the mouse, you can just drag it however you'd like. So that's the general idea, right? And yeah, again, you can switch easily between your workspaces, and it's just going to kind of do its thing. Now let's go back to Workspace 1. We'll keep AeroSpace up there, and let's close Reader. Let's open Z, and what I want to look at is the config file. So how is this configured? One of the cool things about AeroSpace is it's totally configurable. There is no UI for it. This kind of menu bar item is kind of the only UI. If you want to change your settings, you have to actually go into your home directory in your .config. If it's not there already, you need to create an AeroSpace folder, and then you want to create an aerospace.toml file. Again, this exact file that I'm using will be available to download in the description if you want to just start where I am, but you can tweak this to your heart's content. So there's a lot of stuff here, but the gist is you have these rules. There's a whole bunch of rules. All of these are documented. This is actually very nicely done, so there's links to the pages that help with these sections. But here's the basic stuff that I have going on. This is a very basic setup, to be clear. You can get much more elaborate. This is just what I'm doing. So there's a start at login. I have it set to true just because I like it when I log in for it to just work. This stuff we're not going to get into the details on. Here's the first thing I want to look at, gaps. So you might notice there is a very small gap between the windows, between the outside. And actually, okay, now we're going to do that same thing. I want to get my terminal over here, right? So let's go back to Ghosty. Ghosty's in my coding one. Let's move it to Workspace 1. How do we do that? Again, it's Option, Shift, and then the workspace that you wanted to go to, in this case, 1. So I'll hit 1. It's gone. I'll switch back to Workspace 1 with Option 1. And now they're side by side, and I'm in the same situation. So again, if you remember what we just did, to get this into service mode, it's Option, Shift, semicolon. We're now in service mode, and I can change the layout here. So again, exactly the same move, Option, Shift, H to move this to the left, And now we have the config file over here. And I'm actually going to widen this so we can read the config file a little better. So the gaps, right? It's 5, 5, 5, 5, 5 everywhere. So there's inner gaps. So the inner gaps are basically in the groups. What's the horizontal padding? So this little gap here is 5 pixels. And then vertical, there's also 5 pixels between these. So if I wanted to increase these, let's set these to 20. And then I can go to my terminal and I will do AeroSpace reload config. It's going to reload and it didn't work. Why didn't it work? Oh, I didn't save. I should save. I save, then I do it, and now you can see there's some more padding, right? We could go crazy. We could do 200, save that, and then reload the config. And now the spacing is stupid. Let's go back to, 5 and 5. I think that's good. Reload the config. And so that's nice. You could do 0 and 0, right? Like if you wanted absolutely 0 space, you could totally do that. For whatever reason, I like to have a little spacing in mine. There's also outer padding you can do, or gap, I should say. Let's go ahead and select all 4 of these. Let's set this to 20 pixels, right? So in this case, the gaps in between the windows inside will stay the same, but there will be more space to the menu bar, the dock, and the sides, right? So let's go ahead and reload the config again, and now there's just more space around this. So one use case, for example, if I always wanted to have my files over here visible, I could do outer right, set this to 100, reload my config. I need more. Let's do 200. Now, when I have this going, the windows are going to take up all this space, but if I have any files on my desktop that I need to like drag over here, I can go ahead and do that. So you can kind of customize this to whatever you see fit. I kind of like just the even spacing all around, and so this is what I do. But yeah, that's one example of how you can kind of customize this to your preferences. Next up are keyboard shortcuts. Keyboard shortcuts, again, they're going to explain a lot of this. This file is well documented. And again, links to the GitHub kind of explainer for all of these in here, which is really, really nice. But this is where you can see the keyboard shortcut setup. Just for clarity, on a Mac, Alt-Shift or Alt is going to be the same as Option. So just be aware of that. You're not going to do Option-Shift. You're going to do Alt-Shift. But these are kind of the things we looked at, right? The HJKL. So you can kind of move your focus left and right, up and down with these. Alt-Shift is how we moved those, right? So Alt-Shift-H is how we moved to the left. That's right here, so that's the command you can do for that. Alt-minus, Alt-equals, or Alt-plus, those are going to resize by certain amounts. You can change the increment of how much that changes. And then these are the keyboard shortcuts we were using quite a bit, right? Option 1 through 9 is going to change between my different workspaces. And then Alt-Shift, or Option-Shift, 1 through 9 are going to move the node to a workspace. The node is the window that you're looking at. There's actually, you can go into the weeds again. Josean's video does a very good job of kind of explaining how that works. I'm not going to do that here because I'm not going to do a good job compared to him. But yeah, so that's some of the stuff there. There's some other keyboard shortcuts you can kind of look at here, but that's the gist is right. These, so if you don't like, for example, that these are like HJKL, if you don't have that muscle memory for Vim, which I honestly don't, you could change these. You could make them whatever you want. So I could do Command Option or Command Alt Shift, and then I could do like up arrow, down arrow. I actually don't know how to do that off the top of my head. I'll look at that after this recording and kind of put it on screen here so you can kind of see how you would do that. But if you have like a super key set up or something like that, you could change those to use like the arrow keys instead of like HJKL. So there's some functionality, some tweaks you can do there to make it a little more intuitive for what you want. But that's kind of the whole point, is that this is super nerdy. This is not for everybody. Not everybody's going to want this functionality. Not everybody's going to not want to go into a text file and have to use their terminal to reload their configuration. People aren't going to want that. I completely understand that. But if you are okay doing that and you are interested in this sort of thing, I think it's pretty cool, and just wanted to share it today in this kind of off-the-cuff video showing this cool window manager, or window layout manager, I should say. I think they don't say it's a window manager strictly, but yeah, it's cool. I hated it, and then I kind of loved it. And so I don't know if I'm going to keep using this for the long run, but it's really, really cool, especially for when I'm working. I like being able to switch to workspaces. And again, it's instant. Like there's no animations. You're not waiting for the computer. It just goes. So yeah, that's a quick look at AeroSpace. If you are interested, check it out on GitHub. It's totally free. Again, my config, which is pretty similar to the default config, will be available to download in the description. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.